Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Don Odell's Legends. My name is Art Tipaldi. I'm the editor and co-founder of Blues Music Magazine. We publish 4 times a year, and we are available in Barnes & Noble. You can go to our website at bluesmusicstore.com, and there you can read all previous 41 issues for free. And you can check out the Blues Music Store, where we sell CDs of many of the artists who we feature in the magazines, including tonight's guest, one of the real special voices out there in the blues, and that's Billy Price. Billy, welcome.
Great to see you again, Art.
Good to see you too, man. Good to see you. Now, Billy, you are, as we were just talking, you are one of the main voices in something. The blues has these little generic little categories. You know, we have rock blues rock, and we have contemporary blues, and we have acoustic blues. But you are one of the great voices in what's called soul blues.
Well, thank you. You know, and I have always done some blues songs, but I think of myself more as a soul singer than a blues singer.
Okay. Where did the love of music start with you?
Really just on the radio. I grew up during the heyday of right when rhythm and blues was starting to morph into soul music.
Okay.
You know, where Sam Cooke and Ray Charles kind of added gospel music sounds to the rhythm and blues, and I just fell in love with it. I was a fanatic for music. I still am. You know, it's the most important thing in my life. And I was a big record collector when I was a kid. I had a lot of 45s and spent all my money, all my disposable income on albums, and you know, just was always friendly with other people who were fanatics for music like I was, and it was always soul music and blues and R&B that caught my attention, and gospel music.
Yeah. What was playing in the house? Now, you grew up like I did in the 50s in New Jersey. My dad was playing the Coasters, Yakety Yak, and Boots Randolph. What was going on in your house?
That's an interesting question. I don't remember my parents favoring any sort of music, really. I mean, there was a piano in the basement that my mother could play, and my father played violin in a little combo in the Catskill Mountains at one point. But as far as what kind of music they liked,
what was playing in the house, though? Radio? You said you had an older brother?
Radio, yeah. And there was a woman who worked in our house, you know, who cleaned one day a week, and she used to listen to gospel music on the radio, and I really tuned into it. I mean, I can't imagine what was being played on the radio back then, but it was really the heyday of the gospel quartet. So there's probably some imprinting inside me with that kind of music.
Sure.
You know, like the ducklings and the mother duck.
Yes. Follow me. Yeah. As you look back, what was it about soul music at that early age, in the late 50s, early 60s, that spoke to you, while the rest of the world was chasing Elvis and the Beach Boys and bands like that?
Sure. Well, you know, I loved Elvis, and I played guitar at one time a little bit, and I used to sing Elvis Presley songs. But you know, by the time the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and the Kinks and everything came around, I was already fully bought into soul music, and that was, as I say, the heyday of Otis Redding and Sam and Dave and Southern soul music and Stax Volt. And you know, I kind of dug the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, especially the Rolling Stones. It's like, yeah, that's okay, but you know, I want to listen to my Otis Redding albums.
Yeah. I know that both Otis Redding and James Brown were very important live performers for you growing up. Can you talk a little bit about the experience of seeing them? Again, tell our viewers the proximity you were to such great bands.
So I grew up in northern New Jersey. It was about a 20-minute bus ride to New York City. And not so much kids my age, but I had an older brother, 3 years older than me. And a lot of his friends were like followers of doo-wop and the great vocal groups like, you know, the Moonglows and the Flamingos and so forth. And there was a disc jockey in New York named Mary the K, and he used to have 4 holiday shows every year at the Brooklyn Fox Theater. And I used to tag along with my brother's friends to go in and see these shows. And they would have one house band backing all the acts up, and everybody did 2 or 3 songs.
Right. Oh,
So
yeah.
it would be Smokey and the Miracles, the Temptations, Jackie Wilson, Sam Cooke,
Wow.
Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells
Oh,
used to
yeah.
just absolutely tear it up.
Yeah.
You know, they would do a standard song like "I Believe" or "Over the Rainbow," and her voice in that theater was just majestic. It was, you know, and you would
Right.
just get chills up
Right.
and down your spine.
Yeah.
Now, you know, as I say, I dug the British acts, but they didn't send chills down
No.
my spine. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And I was looking for the chill. I was looking for something that would make the hairs on my arms stand up.
Right, right.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. And the experience of seeing a James Brown and an Otis Redding live.
Man, I saw James Brown. I saw him a few times, but the time that stands out, right in between, like Papa's Got a Brand New Bag and Cold Sweat, around there, 1967. He was just starting to break nationally. You know, he was already a big star in the African American community.
Yeah.
But he had this almost a coming out concert at Madison Square Garden in New York. And I'm telling you, I've seen, you know, World Series games, and I've seen playoff games
Yeah.
and great football games. I have never seen a spectacle like the James Brown show in 1967 in my entire life.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have never seen anything like it.
Wow.
The professionalism, the precision
Yeah.
of the band, and you know, the choreography and everything, all of it together was just stunning.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
At this point in '67, were you singing as a vocalist yet?
Yeah, I
Had
had little garage bands. I had a band in high school called Billy and the Uptights.
Okay.
And you know, we were popular because we were, compared to other garage bands, we were probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Which is not to say good, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, comparatively speaking. And I was this you know, little like James Brown, Otis Redding imitator.
Okay.
That's basically what I did.
Right.
There was an album that was real popular back then, James Brown Live at the Apollo.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
Volume 1, and there was like a 10 or 15 minute song that ended on side 1 and began again on side 2. It was called "Lost Someone," and you know, there's all this interaction between James and the audience at
Right.
the Apollo, and I used to do that with my little band verbatim.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, every
Yeah, yeah.
every improvisation that James Brown did, I did.
Yeah.
And I can't, you know, to this day, I can't imagine how people received that. They,
Yeah.
you know, but I did it anyway because I just wanted that to come through
That's right.
through my voice. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And that's
Yeah.
pretty cool because for that audience, they'd
Yeah.
never seen that or heard the James Brown version
Well,
of
yeah,
it.
yeah, I mean,
most
I guess some
likely.
have,
And
but
so
some
you
did,
were
but-
you were doing something that was
Yeah.
pretty different and unique to them.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. I remember back in those days, 65, 66, 67, same place as you, the garage band culture of, you
Yeah.
know, 4 or 5 kids would get together as
Yeah.
sophomores in high school, and by seniors, they played, you know, the church basements, and somebody had a party in their backyard, the swim club
Yeah.
dance.
You know, it was also it was a negotiation between me and the other kids in the band
Yeah.
because you know, they were into other stuff. You know, they were, and I was the one who was interjecting stuff like, "Oh, let me do "Lost Someone" by James Brown."
Right, right,
You
yeah.
know, so I actually found one of the kids that was in that band posted on Facebook a list of our repertoire from that band, and you know, it was pretty damn good. It
That's
really was.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really was. There was some weird stuff on there that
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't choose myself, but it was, you know, it was
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the learning curve as a vocalist to get to that point, in terms of, were you listening to records and singing along?
Yeah.
Were you going out when you came back from shows? Were you trying to imprint?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to records obsessively.
Yeah.
And you know, I think for a long time, probably too long a time, I was content to just imitate what I was hearing.
Okay.
And you know, and then it dawned on me, maybe 15 or 20 years after it should have,
Yeah.
oh, the world doesn't need to hear Billy Price singing an O.V. Wright song.
Right.
They can hear O.V. Wright singing an O.V. Wright song.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in some ways I didn't care because I got such a charge out of doing that. You know?
Yeah. And there's also, as you're growing up, you're learning how to sing, you're learning how to express yourself,
Yeah.
you know, through your voice. There's also all these different, just like with the blues, you know, there's a Delta style, there's Chicago
Yeah.
blues, there's West Coast Texas.
Yeah, that's
There's
right.
all these different styles of soul music, whether it's Detroit or Memphis
That's true.
or you know, Muscle Shoals.
Yeah, you know, we would do, I had another band in college. I went to Penn State and had a band that played all the fraternity parties, and I found some other guys, you know, like me who liked the same kind of thing that I did. And we would do, you know, the Motown stuff, I'm Losing You by the
Sure.
Temptations and all that. And I loved it back then, but it's funny and it was unexpected to me the way that kind of stuff in my mind has fallen away. I mean, I like it and I respect it, but it doesn't have the depth of Southern soul music of the, you know, Otis Redding, James Carr, O.V. Wright variety.
That's right.
Because, I mean, there were elements of gospel music in it, but the elements weren't as upfront.
That's right.
And what I was really looking for was that gospel soul, that deep gospel soul feel. you know.
Yeah. Would I be correct in saying that where much of the blues we hear today, and going back even the last couple of decades, is very guitar forward,
Yeah.
that soul blues is more voice forward?
Yeah, you know, they talk about sometimes the Texas, Kansas City style and the Chicago, Mississippi style. And I love the Chicago, Mississippi style, but that
Yeah.
tends to be more guitar oriented.
Okay.
Whereas
yes.
the Texas, Kansas City style is more keyboards and horns.
Right.
You know, and my favorite, who I latched on to when I was in high school, is Bobby Blue Bland.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and Bobby, and just like what I was saying before about James Brown, the musical sophistication of those records on Duke were stunning.
Yeah.
You know, he had this great band leader, Joe Scott, who was his arranger, and I used to ride in the car. I had this great sax player in one of my bands who was a jazz guy all the
Right.
way. You know,
Yeah.
loved Coltrane and Lester Young and all those guys, and wasn't that familiar with R&B. And I used to play him the Bobby Bland tracks, the big band Bobby
right.
Bland tracks, and he loved them
Yeah.
for the sophistication of the arrangements and stuff.
Right.
But he said, it's the weirdest thing. The arrangements are so sophisticated, but like half the guys are playing out of tune. You know, it's like it wasn't computing right. You know?
Yeah. Now, to pick all that stuff up, did you have a musical education in
No,
terms of
not at all,
arrangement,
no.
or is it all just picked up
Yeah, you
organically?
know, I wasn't the kind of kid who joined the choir or you know, sang in musical comedy or
Right.
you know, Broadway musical type of things.
Yeah.
At the high school level, I didn't play in the band or
Did you take
anything.
courses in music? You know,
No, I
music
never did.
theory or
No.
Very interesting.
All by ear.
Yeah. Well, I think our listeners would be very thrilled to hear that you spent 3 years with Roy Buchanan as
Yeah, I
his
did.
vocalist.
Yeah.
Can you
yeah.
talk a little bit about how you got that gig?
Sure. So there was a guy who grew up in Pittsburgh, and he was going to school down in the Washington, D.C. area at American University. And that was a time when there was a lot of buzz about Roy. He was playing this like kind of residency in this little place called the Crossroads, this little country bar, and people used to travel to go see Roy at the Crossroads, and he would do all the stuff that he did. He was a magician on the guitar, and this guy from Pittsburgh started going down there, and he got to know Roy, and I don't know how he did it, but somehow he convinced Roy to let him manage him. So Roy had done 2 albums for Polydor Records, and he was about to do his 3rd album. And this guy, when he would come home, he would hear me and my band in Pittsburgh, the Rhythm Kings. And the Rhythm Kings, I would compare them to Room Full of Blues of that era. You know, we were doing a lot of jump blues and swing, but also a lot of soul music.
Yeah.
And you know, this guy Jay liked the way I sang, and he was looking for something to elevate Buchanan commercially, and he thought the combination of me with Buchanan might be something.
Okay.
So they brought me in to do this studio album that was called "That's What I'm Here For."
Right.
And this guy Jay Rich was the producer of that album. And actually, I played last night at Jimmy's Jazz and Blues Club, and our bass player from that era with Buchanan was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
wow.
a guy named John Harrison.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he was there last night.
Right.
But, you know, it was a very strange, my
Pairing?
first experience recording, and I didn't know what any of this was about. You know, I was 22, 23 years old. And, you know, the way we, quote, wrote songs was like Roy would start playing a riff with the band, and he'd look at me and wait for me to sing. Oh, we need lyrics and a title, okay.
Yeah.
So you know, that's kind of the way we put these things together. Roy was, he was a journeyman guitar player. He played in a million different contexts. And now he was suddenly a star, and he had no idea how to deal with that.
Yeah,
you know,
and the challenges to be a vocalist in a band that was so guitar heavy, what were some of the challenges?
Well, sure. I mean, I was very aware that I was just the vehicle to get to the guitar solo, you know? You know, and I would sing one or two verses, and sometimes I thought, well, the audience doesn't really want to be distracted by too much greatness from the singer, you know? And I did the best I could, and sometimes I would do two verses, and Roy would play for like 25 minutes, and whether I was coming in again for the third verse or not, you know, it just depended.
Yeah. Right.
It was very strange, but you know, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I played great, amazing gigs.
Cool.
And,
cool.
Yeah, I had a real good time and a real baptism into like the big time music business, because he was on Polydor Records. You know? The music industry was awash in money back then.
That's right.
Right. So we were in New York at the record plant recording that album for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm telling you, Art, there was nothing I could do that if I didn't get a receipt, I couldn't get reimbursed by the record company.
Wow, yeah.
You know, I went to Max's Kansas City one night to hear Room Full of Blues opening for Bobby Blue Bland.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I bought drinks for everybody in the bar.
And then
you know?
you got the tab.
Here's the receipt.
Yeah. Wow. Well, besides that, what would you say your most important takeaway from that Roy Buchanan experience might be?
Well,
besides getting the tab paid for?
Yeah, to sort of go on with the story.
Yeah.
So the album comes out, the studio album, and everybody was all charged up about it, and a couple of good reviews come out.
Yeah.
Then Rolling Stone comes out, and they hated the album.
Oh, no.
And blamed it all basically on me.
Oh, my God.
So this was, you know, for a kid that age with like stars in his eyes, it was devastating.
Oh,
you know?
my gosh.
And I give Roy and Jay a lot of credit to this day, because you know, I had a band that I was in at the time, the Rhythm Kings in Pittsburgh, and my plan was to try to, you know, leverage my time with Buchanan to get a deal for the Rhythm Kings, because, you know, unlike the way Roy did things, which was a sort of a half-assed, to my mind, way of doing things, I came from the James Brown, Bobby Bland school, where I wanted everything to be tight and precision, and the Rhythm Kings kind of had that. So, you know, we weren't able to connect anybody with the Rhythm Kings, but I left Roy for a while, and he had a couple of other singers. Then they owed Polydor one more album. They were moving to Atlantic Records. And to their credit, they invited me back to do this live album at Town Hall in New York.
Oh, yeah.
And the live album is called Livestock. That's the one that really launched my career.
Really?
You know, and they easily could have said, well, you know, Rolling Stones slammed Billy, and you know, but they believed in
how
me,
nice.
and I'm very grateful to this day.
How nice, how nice.
Yeah.
So I know you were with the Rhythm Kings through about the 1990 maybe, 89, 90?
No, there was another band that came around called Billy Price and the Keystone Rhythm Band.
Oh, that's it, the Keystone Rhythm Band.
I started
that's right.
that band in the late 80s or the late 70s and had
That's
that
right.
until 1990.
That's what it was, yeah.
And we recorded 4 albums.
Right.
Yeah.
So between 1990 and let's say 2015, what was Billy Price doing?
Well, I had a full-time job. I was working in the communication field at a research institute at Carnegie Mellon University.
Oh, wow, cool.
And I did a lot of things. I was a PR director and managed the communications team, and I was a tech writer, tech editor, and worked on the blog and worked on conferences, all kinds of stuff like that.
Still singing though.
But still singing, yeah. And some of the most interesting recordings I made were during those years where I was, I did a number of different projects.
Yeah.
One of them, I did an album with Jerry Williams Jr., known as Swamp Dog.
Oh yeah,
Swamp Dog?
I just got his what's it called? Black.
Oh, I love that album. Blackgrass.
Blackgrass. Yeah,
Yes.
I just got it a couple of weeks ago.
My favorite album.
Yeah, that is very good.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did an album with Swamp, and I had a band called the Billy Price Band. And of course, I still do, and that's the band that's going to be doing the
Here
thing
tonight.
But
sure.
I've had that band for over 20 years now at this point.
Right.
And we did a couple of live albums and some studio albums, and
Nice.
did another really good album back in the late 80s called the Soul Collection that I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
It is as the title suggests, a collection of very much under the radar soul songs that nobody really knew.
Right.
And it was on that album that I first recorded with Otis Clay, because Otis and I had done some performances together.
Yeah.
And he agreed to do a cameo on a couple of songs on that album.
And that working with Otis turned into the Blues Music Awards Soul Blues Album of the Year 2016.
This Time for Real, it's called.
Yeah. So was there was a big time gap between those?
No, not really. I mean, we would perform together all the time.
Okay.
And sometimes in Chicago and sometimes in Pittsburgh and Washington, D.C. We probably did that 10 or 15 times.
Yeah.
So we were friends.
Yeah.
And he came off one of the blues cruises.
Oh yeah.
And he called me and he said, a couple of people said to me that we should do a full-length album. Should we do that?
Oh, how nice.
Said, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
at the time I was talking to Duke Robillard about
Okay.
producing me and my band, and I called Duke and I said, what do you think about producing me and Otis Clay?
Yeah, how fast did he answer that
what
question?
do you think Duke said?
Yeah.
So,
Wow. And since then you've had, what, 3 or 4 different albums? Reckoning?
I did Reckoning and Dog Eat Dog with Kid Anderson out in San Jose at Greaseland.
Right, and your current one?
And my current one is Person of Interest that I did with Tony Bronigal.
That's right, on Little Village.
Little Village Records, and recorded that in Studio City, California.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, as you look now at where we are today, what are some of the challenges for a soul blues singer out there today?
Well, I am very, very proud of my band, and I am well aware of how good they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the perfect backup band for me, and I would like to be playing more blues festivals. Now, I'm not sure that we're scratching the itch for the blues festival fans or the blues cruisers, because, as you say, it's become a real guitar-oriented world.
That's right.
I have a great guitar player, but it's not centered around that.
That's right.
It's more centered around horns and keyboards.
And songs.
Yeah, that's right. But this is what I do full time. I don't have a job at all anymore at Carnegie Mellon, and I want to travel as long as I'm able to, and so the biggest challenge for me is gigs, but I'm not alone in that.
That's right. Oh, no. What about the challenge of writing songs today?
That's very exciting to me.
Yeah.
Person of Interest is the first album I ever did where I wrote everything on it.
Yeah, great songs though.
I have, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a few people I collaborate with, mostly my keyboard player in my band, Jim Britton.
Yeah.
but also I write with a wonderful guitar player from France named Fred Chapelier, who's a kind of a Buchanan acolyte.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And I also write with John Tiven.
Oh yeah,
in Nashville.
Sure.
You know John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you finding it easier to find songs to cover, or have you sort of?
I'm receding from that. I'm not. You know, it's
You'd
not hard to find songs to cover.
No.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing I'm covering. I'm not doing it on the video today.
Yeah,
but, I was doing this project for this group in Cleveland called the Cleveland Treatment Center. Tad Robinson is the musical director there, and the idea is we do tracks. My band and I did some tracks, and then the kids who were with the Cleveland Treatment Center then come on and do background vocals and stuff like that. So one of the songs we did on the last go-round was Be Thankful for What You Got by William DeVaughn.
Okay.
You know, Diamond in the Back, Sunroof Top,
Oh yeah.
Dig in the Scene with a Gang. And man, I do that live and it smashes. It's amazing.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So the audiences,
Yeah.
I would assume that once you start to play, the audiences lock right in with you because your songs, your sound has that nostalgia.
Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 songs.
Yeah,
you know, if the audience doesn't know us that well.
Yeah.
But eventually we get them.
Right,
we
right.
do get them.
Right. Is there a new form of soul music that you see out there?
Oh yes.
I mean,
my goodness.
What makes up the new soul that the younger?
There's a couple of labels that are really doing that. There's Coal Mine out of I think they're outside of Cincinnati, and of course Daptone.
Oh, Daptone, yeah.
You know, is another one in there. But there are some really great neo soul artists that I listen to all the time.
And are they, as with the blues, are they using the traditional soul to jumpstart the current? You know,
I think so. Yeah. There's a lot of I hear a lot of echoes of stuff like the Delphonics and you know some vocal group stuff, and I'm sure you're familiar with the California Honey Drops. I mean, that's another wonderful group.
That's true. Yeah, love that.
Yeah, and that's sort of my favorite stuff. I guess you can call it neo soul or something like that.
Yeah. You know, because you hear when you listen to the pop culture TV, you hear, oh, we have this great R&B singer now. This is the hottest new R&B singer we've got. And my wife and I look at each other and go, this doesn't sound like R&B to me. It's sort of misnamed. But good. Well, Billy, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks. I enjoyed the conversation.
Good to share this. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Billy Price. He'll be performing tonight here at Don Odell's Legends, and that show will be also up there on YouTube as soon as it's been edited. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Billy.
Thank you.
Right on, man.